What a privilege to stand here this evening, to stand here with Nelson and Yael and Saul, and with all of you in support of and in defense of Dreamers. And what I'd like to do is just start by telling you about an experience that I had 5 years ago. And I got a phone call, and I was invited to accompany 8 Dreamers who were in Nogales, Sonora, Mexico, who were on the other side of the border. And they were going to present themselves at the Nogales port of entry and request humanitarian parole in the United States. So I remember distinctly that Monday morning, and I walked across the border, as I do many times as part of our working binationally, working in humanitarian aid, outreach centers, shelter for women and children, education, advocacy. And just beyond the border, there was a small restaurant. And inside that restaurant were these 8 young men and women, dressed in graduation gowns and brimming with hope. And what stayed with me as we walked with them through Nogales, Sonora, as we approached the port of entry, and I accompanying Lisbeth Mateo, who had been accepted to law school at Santa Clara University, and her future of being a lawyer hanging in the balance, I was deeply moved by the tremendous courage of these men and women. They knew they were going to be arrested. They didn't know what would happen, if they would receive humanitarian parole or not. And yet, much like Nelson and Yael and Saul have shared with us, they had this dream of a better future and a dream of being reunited with their family. And it was that courage that compelled them, that drove them to present themselves at the port of entry on that July afternoon. And it's been a privilege being part of the Keno Border Initiative to be a witness day after day of these dreams and this courage. Yes, of Dreamers on the U.S. side of the border, but also men and women and children who find themselves deported to Nogales, Sonora, Mexico. I think of the man who was deported from Omaha, Nebraska, recently to Nogales, who has 2 Dreamer children living in Omaha, and of his courage to do whatever he can for them so that they may have a brighter future. I think of the man from Tolleson, Arizona, just down the freeway, who I met washing dishes, or drying dishes in our center, telling me that he had been deported and left a wife and child behind in Tolleson, working as a landscaper, I think for $18 an hour, the main breadwinner for this family. And the courage and the hope that he had to be reunited with them again. I think of the woman from central Mexico whose husband and her own life had been threatened by organized crime, whose husband delayed in going to work one day. Instead, another man got into the taxi he would have taken to go to work. And when that man was killed, they knew they were next. And yet as she sat there in our shelter, I saw her brimming with hope and with courage. of finding a place of safety and protection for her and her husband. Nelson, Yael, and Saul here tonight have shown great courage in sharing their dreams, in sharing their experience, sharing their hopes of staying with their families, of having the life that God desires for them. This dream of a brighter future. We all know that there's a very important debate happening in the U.S. Congress right now. Some of the bills being proposed want to exchange a path to citizenship for the Dreamers in exchange for fundamental changes to our immigration system, an end to the visa lottery system, reductions in family-based immigration, and increased funding in border security, and yes, even in a border wall. Today, 3 proposals to provide a path to citizenship for Dreamers, all in the Senate, did not reach the 60-vote threshold. And it seems very likely that the Senate will not pass a bill this week. Yes, this is a source of great discouragement. And yet it's also a time to reach deep inside and to touch the courage and the hope that has been expressed this evening. This hope that Saul and Nelson and Yael have expressed, that hope and courage lies in us too. That dwells inside us too. We wouldn't be here if that wasn't there. And so now it's time more than ever to draw on that courage, to draw on that hope, and to continue to stand with the Dreamers, to stand with our migrant sisters and brothers. And it is that hope and it's that courage that's going to empower us to continue to move forward. That's how I've been able to stay at the Keno Board Initiative after 9 years. It is the hope and courage of the migrant men, women, and children we encounter every day. We think we're helping them, but they really inspire us. And so it's this hope and courage that inspires us and will help us to continue to be faithful to this path, to continue to call our legislators, to continue to stand with Dreamers, to continue to stand with migrants who are vulnerable at risk of deportation, and to promote policies which respect their human dignity. Father Greg Boyle is a Jesuit from our province. He's the director of Homeboy Industries. I'm fairly certain he has been here at Brophy to talk about his work there. And I love what he says about kinship. This idea that we're all connected, that we're all in relationship. And what he says about kinship is it's not so much serving the other, but it's being one with the other. It's not so much serving the other, but it's being one with the other. So this is our invitation. It's to be one with Saul and Yael and Nelson. It's to be one with our Dreamers. It's to be one with our migrant sisters and brothers, especially when they're vulnerable and at risk of deportation. It's to be one with migrants deported on the border, unsure about what's next. And it's to be one with one another. And as we are one with one another, together with our Dreamers, together with our migrant sisters and brothers, with the hope and courage that they exude, that they live out each and every day. Their dream, our dream, will become a reality. So let's continue on that path to make that dream a reality as we are one with them. Thank you.